Hey, buddy, eyes up here.
We just saw Superman, the new movie from James Gunn, his first feature film into this new DC universe that he's creating. And what we're gonna do is give you guys our general thoughts, spoiler-free, leading into a rating, and then after that we'll get into some spoiler territory, and we'll let you know along the way. But yeah, Oz, on our way home last night, we found it very difficult to not talk about the movie with each other.
We don't really know what the other one thinks about the movie.
We decided that we wouldn't talk about the movie to one another. We wanted this to be a more authentic, open forum of discussion about the movie that we just saw. We were both hyped as heck for it, and we saw it about 24 hours ago, had the thoughts simmer down. This isn't a out of theater review. I'm not good at those. I'd give everything a 10. But Oz, what did you think?
I thought it was great. I loved Superman. And background, me and you are big James Gunn fans.
Yes,
so I think
yes,
that
we are.
that's worth noting. I've been a fan of James Gunn. You more so the Scooby-Doo franchise.
Yes.
You love the Scooby-Doo movies.
My man James Gunn did direct Scooby-Doo.
He wrote it.
Or he wrote it, my bad.
And I think my worry going into this movie was that it was going to be like Superman worship. Because everything James Gunn, when he talked about the movie, it was like he was holding such reverence towards Superman. And I was like, oh, great. It's going to be the opposite of what Man of Steel was, where Man of Steel was like, this is a deconstruction of Superman. This is a dark, gritty Superman, and he's depressed. And this is going to be the opposite. And while it is the opposite, I think my fear of it being Superman worship, it wasn't there. This isn't Superman worship. But what I love that it does is it's not a spoiler. He's been Superman already. But it jumps in, and throughout the movie, you see what makes Superman. And that's what I love about this movie. I think it's great. And I was thinking really hard about it last night. I'm like, I might need to give it some more time, but like of everything James Gunn has done, this might be my favorite James Gunn movie. And I'm talking too much.
No,
What
it's
do
okay.
you think? 'Cause I can gush about it all day.
Full disclosure, I am an enjoyer of the Zack Snyder movies, specifically Batman vs. Superman and the Snyder cut of Justice League. I liked what he was trying to do with Darkseid and the whole nightmare scene with Batman and Batman vs. Superman. That being said, I'm not on the level of the Snyder defenders who blatantly went out of their way to try and trash this movie and write it off because it's not Snyder, it's not Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I was excited to see something new. More specifically, like with your thoughts with it not being Superman worship, my thoughts on Man of Steel, it feels like Superman in the Snyder universe is viewed as a god. And he's got humanity, but I don't feel like it touched too much on it compared to James Gunn's Superman. Whereas James Gunn's Superman feels infinitely more relatable, feels more down to earth. He feels like somebody who came to Earth, grew up amongst humans, and has human struggles like I do. I loved the movie. I was jazzed the entire time. I was amazed. I didn't share the same worries as you, where I was worried it was going to be Superman worship. I never thought of it like that, but I do understand where that worry could come up. But I was...
Yeah, I'm shocked too, because last night after we watched it, I was reading some reviews and I was watching some reviews, and I can't find anybody who like adores this movie like I do, and it seems like you do. It seems like people like it, or they teeter on, if it's a scale, it's like a 4 to 6 range is from what I'm seeing.
Really?
I'm not seeing like praise unless I'm looking in the wrong circles, but that's what I'm seeing, and I'm like, I just don't get it. I'm like, this movie, there are things, and I'll get into it, that I dislike. Like, I'll get my dislikes out of the way first. I think there are moments in this movie where things are just like described, or it's exposition dialogue to a point where I'm like, you roll your eyes at it because it's like, this is the reason somebody is doing something. This is why this is the way it is. And it's just blurted out in a way where it's like nobody actually talks like that, but we're starting 3 years into this universe, and it's a 2-hour movie. Like, we don't have time to explain every detail why a character is the way it is.
Exactly.
Why this technology exists that doesn't exist. We're 3 years in, so I get it, but I don't like it, and those are the things like I roll my eyes at. And then the second thing, there's 3 things really that I disliked. That's the first. Second, there's CGI in this movie that, like, specifically like the middle portion of the movie, and we'll get into it in spoilers, where I was like, this looks rough. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what we were doing. This movie's, and it did, I remember like when they announced it, like, it's a fast movie.
Yeah. It gets up and goes.
But it's like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, why does the CGI look so bad? But
It wasn't as bad as The Flash.
because the Flash,
That looked like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 graphics.
Yeah.
Like, that stuck out to the point that it cringed. Like,
yeah, because this movie it's a comic book movie, and that's what I like about it. The Flash, it was comic booky, and I would compare tonally. I think they're trying to do the same thing, but the CGI in this it's a comic book CGI, if that makes sense. And it's hard to explain it really because it's such a huge part of the movie that it can't really spoil it. But
It'd be something that we'd have to add and post and show you guys, like the specific scenes, just to point it out.
And then the third thing is, it's more of a me complaint. I wanted more Clark, and I didn't get a whole lot of Clark in this movie. This is Kal-El's movie. This is a Superman. Like, the same way the Batman is the Batman's movie, this is Superman, the movie.
Definitely.
It's like, Superman is 90% of this movie, 10% Clark, maybe 10%. So that's what I disliked. I don't know about you. We'll get our negatives out of the way because there are very few.
I'd say a big negative for me, and this is just like initial impressions without actually going back in time and sitting in that theater seat, it did feel a little messy. Like, I wasn't sure where the heck the plot was going.
Oh, that was something that it was interesting to me. I remember reading, there was not that long, maybe a couple months ago, that originally this movie was split up into a week. So like it starts, I don't know when, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's 7 days.
And it was day by day.
And as I was watching it, I could see the cuts. I'm like, this is where Tuesday shows up on the screen. This is where Wednesday shows up on the screen.
I wish he kept it that way.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why they cut it. But that right there, I'm like, that's cool. That's a cool premise. And you can see the moments where that should have shown up on screen, like Monday.
Definitely.
And then have a conversation next day. You can tell this is the next day.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if at one point maybe there's like a director's cut or something where that is what happens.
That would be nice.
But I can see where you're coming from. I never felt like that. I was just like, and maybe after a second watch, I changed my tune and I see where you're coming from, but I never felt like
It
aimless.
it wasn't messy to the point that it's gonna hurt my rating, like with other movies where pacing feels off. It's just going in, I definitely felt a little, what the heck is going on? And then there's a point in the movie, I can't exactly remember it, but they reveal, not gonna spoil it, but they reveal who's doing what, and it's like you can see the connections. And I was like, okay, I pieced it together, and it made more sense. I think that's honestly my only qualm, other than not having popcorn and the dude next to me just, every time something happened, he would go, ew, yucky, or, oh.
That was funny. And I was glad I wasn't sitting next day because I heard it every once in a while. But
It was hard not to roll my eyes at Oz. I can say one thing I really did is the color palette, and it definitely leans into that comic booky feel.
it's a James Gunn thing. Like,
Yeah.
all of his movies, they look good. They don't look like trash.
Yep.
There's color. It's a pretty movie.
Exactly. It's visually appealing, and it seemed the vibe that the colors give off, just happy, good, joyful vibes, maybe like good feeling vibes. It's hard to describe without really saying key spoilers. Another thing I really did is just how
Are we getting
different.
into positives now?
Yeah, I have no
Okay.
negatives. Is that okay?
That was all your negatives?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bouncing off of that is one of the things that I love about this movie is since The Dark Knight, can you think of like maybe Spider-Man Homecoming. Can you think of a movie where it's like a superhero movie where it's like they're not trying to be dark and gritty? It's like we've lost the fun in comic book movies.
There was definite period of time.
Aside from James Gunn, like aside from the Guardians movies, can you think of like a fun comic booky movie?
My wife and I, we've been watching all the Marvel movies, and we just went past the first two Guardians movies, and I definitely agree. Like, especially the first two phases of the MCU, there was like a definite feel to them, and they were darker. Like when you go back to the original Thor movie or the original Iron Man, it's like it's a more grounded feel, and it doesn't feel as comic booky, and that's definitely the byproduct of the Dark Knight.
And I was watching Chris Stuckman's review this morning, and he mentions it's similar to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, and I was like, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
That is embracing like the camp of comic book movies, and that's what James Gunn does so well. Is he introduces all of these weird zany characters, but it's you like all of them. Like I liked every single character in this movie. There wasn't one that I disliked, and I'm like, that's what James Gunn does great. And so I think it's a great movie.
Definitely. Would talking about Superman be considered spoilery?
It depends on, are we getting into like lore changes that I noticed?
I wouldn't say lore changes. I'd just say how they presented
spoilers.
it.
Not spoilers. You're talking about Superman.
Yeah. Superman as a character, David Cornsweet, I feel like he did.
We're talking
fantastic
about actors.
job.
Yeah, they're all great. Everybody does a great job.
But how his acting of Superman, along with arriving from James Gunn, kind of came to what we have now, what we just saw. I especially love it because going back to what I said earlier about how this feels like a much more relatable Superman, that is something I appreciated, and it was definitely a breath of fresh air. Like I said, I enjoy the Snyder movies, but there's how many different portrayals of Superman? We have how many different iterations of Superman? And I feel like only one of them was ever truly viewed as a god. I was getting sick of it. I don't want another god Superman. And so it was nice to come back to, would it be fair to liken him to Christopher Reeve's Superman a little bit?
Yeah.
Or one Superman movie I remember watching a lot was Superman Returns with
Brandon Routh.
I think that was, and it was Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
and Spacey. Yes. I remember watching that one a lot. Specifically the scene where they're like in underwater thing and the kryptonite's growing and there's like water everywhere. That's implanted in my memory somehow. But it was nice to go back to a more comic booky, down to earth, flawed Superman. I think it was dutifully flawed. I think it is a fair comparison there. Another thing I really liked the Justice Gang. Like you were saying, James Gunn has a really good ability to just take these obscure characters and breathe life into them and make them likable. Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion. Hawk Girl, played by, I forget her name, Dina from The Last of Us Season 2. And then we had Mr. Terrific.
By the way, the standout of this movie, like he steals everything that he's in. It's
so cool.
When and there's, it's a spoiler, I'm not gonna say it, but everything with Mr. Terrific I loved. This guy is awesome.
I had the biggest grin on my face
I know what
every
you're talking
time.
about. Yeah.
Especially one scene specifically.
And I had no idea who Mr. Terrific was before this movie. I had never heard the name before.
And they don't really touch on what he does other than he's the smart one. And it's like, that's funny. That's James Gunn. That's James Gunn's humor, which is another thing.
Yeah.
If you like James Gunn, you'll like the movie.
I agree with that.
There's a lot of
If you don't like James Gunn, I can't imagine this is gonna change anybody's mind.
Yeah.
Like, it is James Gunn. He's not trying to do anything different. This is a James Gunn movie. If you like James Gunn, I think you're gonna like the movie. If you don't, I don't see you enjoying it as much.
One qualm I can definitely see people having, and it's not one that I had personally, is the tone. So you'll notice in James Gunn movies, he doesn't let the emotions really sit. Not talking about Guardians 3, that's an anomaly, but there's always the James Gunn joke, just to kind of break the ice, break the tension a little bit. There was one scene that I'm glad there was no joke. He let it sit, and you could feel it, and it made me feel, I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now.
I'm curious what that is.
We'll get into that in spoilers too. There's so much about this movie that we want to talk about, and it's just so difficult to not talk about the key moments.
Let's wrap it up then. What is your rating, your spoiler-free rating?
My spoiler-free rating And I'm not sure if I'm gonna regret this later on down the road. Notoriously, I gave The Rise of Skywalker 10 out of 10. And I feel like I bring that up more than they do anymore. But it's definitely a sore spot on my track record with reviews. But I'm gonna give my honest review as I sit here with you right now. I would say a firm 9 out of 10.
Yep, that is also my score. It's a very light 9, super strong 8 if I'm like critiquing it heavily, but yeah,
There we
9
go.
out of 10.
Definitely. And I guess this is the part where we start getting into spoilers.
Superman. He's not a man. He's an it.
We'll get to the specific part that we freaking loved. Context setting it up, Mr. Terrific and Lois Lane take his flying saucer over to an abandoned military post that is being occupied by Lex Luthor's goons. And there's a song, there's a needle drop from Noah and the whales.
So, yeah, knowing the whale.
Noah and the whale. And it's just, he like puts up a force field because they're all about to shoot him. And Lois Lane is just sitting there and he just steps out and he's just being badass. This like scrawny, smart dude with these flying balls just kicking everybody's ass.
It was so cool. It reminded me of the finale of Guardians 3.
Oh,
that one
yeah.
shot, because I don't remember a cut.
There was no cut. It was all one shot.
So-
There might have been like a couple hidden cuts in there,
Yeah.
but it gives off the vibe of a one
Yeah.
take.
Yeah.
And it was just
Oh,
awesome.
it's amazing.
And I did.
And James Gunn he's so good with his music.
Oh,
That's one of the things I look forward to most. And there's much less in this movie. I think there's 2 songs.
He still knows how to pick music.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't disappoint here. Those 2 songs, I loved the ending especially. In the beginning of the movie, we see Clark Kent, Superman, being not brought back to life, but healed by the Superbots. And they give him a concentrated dose of yellow sunlight. And to calm him down, they're playing his parents' message to him. And at the end, instead of it being his birth parents' message that's being played, it's videos and still images of his Earth parents. Not to get a little
Yeah, go ahead.
I having a stepdad, that was a soft spot for me, and
Yeah.
I definitely felt it a lot heavier, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it got me too. I was like, man, that's good stuff. James Gunn, as far as like setup and payoff in this movie, I was thinking it happens a couple of times where it's like you set something up. You set up obviously the beginning with his Kryptonian parent, with Jor-El and his mom, and you get that video, and that's what he says soothes him. And then at the end, payoff with Mon Pa Kent instead of Jor-El.
Definitely.
And then you get Crypto, like him attacking the Mr. Terrific's, his like little orb spheres things, and Crypto's attacking him, and then that pays off at the end
Where
when he's chasing
the,
Lex's drones.
Exactly.
I just love the setup and payoff that James Gunn gives
Definitely.
you in this movie. It's not in your face. It's not, hey, remember this when this happened? It's not like that. It's like,
They're definitely memorable
Yeah.
scenes that you call back to. You're like, oh, it's gonna play it again.
I have a question. Did we know Bradley Cooper was Jor-El before this?
No, we did not.
Okay.
That was something.
Because I was like, that seems like a pretty big secret to keep,
Yeah.
that Bradley Cooper is Jor-El. And is that also in the comics? Has that ever been a thing where it's like, we're going the Invincible route now, where it's like Viltrumites and Kryptonians are the same, and they're trying to send one of their own to a planet and take over that planet and rule them? Has that been a thing ever?
Not that I know of. I will say that was a spot that I was a little confused with because I thought at some point in the movie we would get the translation
Yeah.
of what they were saying. Instead, we're left off with the Earth translation.
I hope they don't go back on it. I think it's a
Definitely.
cool new bit of Superman lore. That he is Superman because he chooses to be Superman. It's not
Exactly.
because that's Krypton, that they're just good people. Clearly they're not. Like, clearly
Right.
Krypton is flawed and they view everybody else as lesser. And I think it's a cool angle. It's a new, as far as I know, I'm not a comic book guy, So
Me as well.
it's a new thing to me. And then another thing was Ultraman, where that is like a Superman clone, pretty much, right? And
A
then,
flawed Superman clone.
and then at the end, I guess if we're going back to like my negatives, all of the stuff with the portal into the pocket dimension, it's a cool concept, but like I can't handle the little pixel blocks and it just looks lazy and I didn't think it looked real. It looked like they were on a green screen the entire time and I'm like, what are we doing here with this? But he goes at the end, Ultraman, the Superman clone, he doesn't die. He goes into one of those little pocket dimensions. And you were telling me before, that's what Doomsday is, right? He is a Superman clone.
Yes. Yep.
So do you think we're going that route?
100%.
That Superman?
100%.
Okay.
We didn't see a body.
Exactly.
And
That's why I was
so-
like, I took note of that. I'm like, he just soups out of there. It's
Exactly.
like he's in that little pocket dimension.
Like it was because there's the black hole inside of the pocket dimension, and they definitely lead us to believe that he fell into the black hole. What I understand about black holes is that they always end up somewhere, and somehow, some way, I'm assuming that we'll see Ultraman again back as Doomsday. I'm not sure if James Gunn will have him come back in different iterations where we're watching him mutate into what we know as Doomsday, or if it's just going to be blams, Doomsday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. The long hair drove me crazy. I didn't like seeing David Cornsweet with long hair.
The wig.
Yeah. I was like, but
It's such a short amount of time.
regardless, you can definitely tell they're going that route of Ultraman being Superman. I'm not sure if Ultraman in the comics is like that, but it was really cool to see Lex Luthor in this movie being this just insane genius. We witness with Ultraman on multiple occasions fighting Superman. So he starts out as the Hammer of Baravia, which is all a scam to make it look like Baravia, the fictional country, definitely not Israel and Palestine. Yeah. But seeing Lex Luthor essentially speak fighting moves, like he'd say like A10, G12, and it like would show up a different fighting move. And Lex Luthor essentially being 3 steps ahead of Superman was definitely very much like the comics. Super stark difference from, who's the guy who played him? I forget the actor's name.
Oh.
In Batman vs. Superman. Eisenberg?
Yeah.
Jesse Eisenberg. I did not like him. He's my least favorite part of that movie because he just feels more like a Joker than a Lex Luthor. I'm a big fan of this new modern comic book superhero reboot trope where we just skip past all the BS and jump straight into it. The Batman, I'm going to say we need to review The Batman just so I can get my thoughts out there because I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love how that movie doesn't give us the whole origin story. 'Cause I'm tired of seeing Bruce Wayne's parents die. I get it. That's how he is. Same thing with Spider-Man. We get it. That's his origin story, bit by a spider. And the new MCU Spider-Man kind of just goes straight into it. Love that. And so we got that with Superman. Love it. You can see Lex Luthor's hatred towards Superman. I didn't see them ever hint at why. They kind of touched on parts, like his monologue where he's in the Sanctum of Solitude, and he says, Superman. He's not a man, he's an it. And does he just hate him because he's an illegal alien?
I mean, there was that scene at the end where he's talking about all of the great people that are remembered in history and how that seems to be Lex's goal is to be better than all of them. And he doesn't like that Superman comes in and he's just super strong. And
Definitely.
so that's what I took away was
I can see
he's
that.
stealing the spotlight. But Lex does I've always liked the Lex Luthor he's a good guy. This is a bad Lex.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a good Lex.
He doesn't have any redeeming qualities
No.
at all.
Yeah, this is a despicable Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Like mustache twirling,
Yeah.
like diabolical.
Yeah. I like animated version Lex where it's like he just hates Superman and he's got a vendetta.
But he's got good intentions.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And I like that of Lex. This is a straight up comic book villain Lex Luthor, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I thought Nicholas Hoult was great.
Yep.
Going back to what I liked or loved was the stuff with Clark and everything with Ma and Pa Kent. because there's the scene, Lois brings him back to Ma and Pa Kent's house.
To recover from kryptonite poisoning.
Yeah, he's got kryptonite poisoning. Ma Kent says something about how Pa Kent's a mushy, especially when it comes to Clark. And then you get that scene of them on the porch. That's good stuff right there. That's what James Gunn does. It's like a 2-minute scene, but it gives you so much. He just tells him how proud he is of him, and Clark just hugs him. That is what I wanted. I needed more of that. And we will get more eventually.
Definitely.
And they're going to go the route of, because I don't want to complain about Man of Steel, but that is one thing that's like Superman. He can do all these things, but he can't save Pa Kent because he dies of a heart attack. It's going to hurt, and what's going to happen eventually in this?
He's laying the breadcrumbs right now.
Such little screen time, but he's so good, and you feel the love between Clark and Pa Kent.
It felt so authentic when he was speaking to Clark. They were outside sitting on a bench. Clark was sharing his poems with the message that leaked about what his parents sent him there for. And he was talking about how he only understood the first part, and his dad, Pa Kent, basically was like, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you interpreted it, that's how it is. And he talked about how parents, they can't mold their kids. They can't tell their kids what to do. They can just give them the tools and let them screw up. And that right there hit home for me. And it's all just, that whole scene was good, and that's the scene I was talking about where James Gunn didn't let the humor come. Yeah. He let it simmer, which was good, because if Ma Kent came out and said, "Zooey Mama," like, it would just kill the vibe. Yeah. But I'm glad he had that one scene there. I agree with you. We're definitely going that route. And Pa Kent leaving.
Yep.
Don't want that.
It's gonna suck.
Another surprise we got was seeing the new Supergirl show up at the end. I forget the actress who's playing her.
You're way more jazzed about this than I am. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about Supergirl. And to me, it was just like a throwaway scene. Yeah. Just to have, hey, that's Supergirl. I don't know if I don't know who that actress is. Is she a big deal?
I'm not sure if it was Game of Thrones or the new House of Dragon or whatever. That's on HBO right now. Okay. The newer iteration. She's in one of those.
Like, it's a funny scene.
Yeah, it's funny. This is the first look we got at her. We had known for the past, 2 years that she was cast and that she's been filming.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. They wrapped filming.
Oh, they were getting a Supergirl movie?
Year.
Oh,
next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's why I was so jazzed about it, because it was, for me, this is the first, if you want to get technical, Creature Commandos is the first look into this new universe. I love Nathan Fillion. I was glad to see him in this movie. I thought he did great with Guy Gardner. But what made me so excited about Supergirl is it's like, that's the next thing. And it's there. There she is in her suit. And here's how she's going to act. And it's okay. Like, that was our brief introduction to her. And that's, from what I gathered, other than Peacemaker Season 2 coming out in a month, in August of 25, Supergirl's the next movie. I think they're developing a Clayface movie that's supposed to be tied in. As of filming, Matt Reeves finally delivered the script for the Batman Part 2, and James Gunn is raving about it. But that's not going to be a part of the DCU. So we still don't know who the Batman's going to be. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a big Batman fan. So I was going to keep just going on into the DCU stuff, because this movie to me is kicking it off, and that's why I'm so jazzed about it.
I never felt watching this movie it was like set up for another movie. It feels like a contained movie. Like, you can go back and watch this movie and just enjoy it. It's not like this is chapter 1 of a much bigger story, which, like, it is, but it feels like and that's what I like about this movie specifically, is it just feels like an episode of the Superman story. Yeah,
it's self-contained, and there were 2 end credits, is what they were calling them online. Yeah, it did nothing to set up anything past this. So I agree with you. I like that it's self-contained. You can pick it up, unlike a Marvel movie where there's just a cross-webbing in those, like, this character from this movie and this from here, they're teaming up in this show. It's not convoluted like that. It's its own thing. But my excitement is just, we're witnessing a new universe, essentially. Like, when was the last time we got a Superman movie? Man of Steel.
Yeah, over 10 years.
Exactly. This is something to be celebrated.
Loved Crypto.
Yep.
Loved Lois. Loved Jimmy Olsen. He was awesome.
This
Jimmy Olsen's the man.
Jimmy is great. He's a womanizer.
Yeah.
And not off topic, but to bounce off of a previous point you made about the pocket dimension and how like you could tell it was a green screen. That didn't bother me too much because it fit that comic book vibe.
Yeah.
Like there was this stark difference between the character and the backdrop, and maybe it's played up to lazy, but it's to me, and I'm like, oh, that's comic book. There's the contrast between the two so that the character is in frame.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Great movie.
good flick.
Great
Go
movie.
see it.
Glad we saw it.
Good movie. And yeah, dude, thanks for watching. We'll have more in the future. Yeah. This is Dave.
Oz.
Signing off. Oz and Dave Stakes. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Boom.
Boom.
You have a dog?